I it's beautiful. I also know that Eventbrite has been delaying the email links, and so unfortunately, because I keep stuff open until the end so that we can't hear. Um, so what happened? Oh, because
You guys hear me okay now? That's because, you know why? It's because my earbuds are in front of me, like on my desk, and that's what was picking up the sound right now. So I just think this is a funny example of how when anything happens related to communication, that we can all just blindly blame it on Mercury retrograde, as opposed to it just being like it wasn't connected properly. So we're going to start now. For those of you who have the playlist, I'll type it again under the screen here so that you can have it. For those who want to play along with it, I personally really love to have the music. And for those of you who have been to Circle in person before, you know that music is a really fun part of it. But we're going to begin now. So start just by getting comfortable wherever you are. I'm going to go ahead and just mute everyone who's not been muted yet, and then we're going to get started. So the first thing that I'll say before we move into anything is to remember that Circle is a place for you to connect with yourself. It's a time for you to reflect. It's a time for you to connect with your own inner wisdom and to pay attention to what the cycles in your own life are. So often in Circle, um, we're looking at different themes in our life that have to do with the moon cycles. So I'm just, if anyone else is in and not muted right now, I'm gonna, no, it looks like, there we go. Sorry, people are just coming in and then it gets something. So what we do when we're here is we look at a lot the moon cycles and what's happening. We look like what's happening astrologically. We look at what's happening around the energy of a new moon or a full moon. And we use looking at what's happening in nature and what's happening in our world and what's happening in the moon cycles to help give us further clarity and further connection around how those themes might be playing out in our own lives. Remembering that we're always a part of nature, and especially for women or women who are identified as women that come onto these calls, we're really connected in with the season. So if we're thinking about masculine and feminine energy, and we're going to do a whole review and connection to the divine masculine and feminine concepts in today's call, but it's really about you connecting in with your ability to be so connected to Earth, so connected to the energies, and from that place to be able to gain clarity on what you're supposed to be doing next, or around what cycle or theme is most present for you in your life, so that you can ultimately show up even brighter and even more full of love, and you can impact from that place. So the theme of tonight's circle was ultimately around radiate, and we're going to be talking about the new moon that was actually in Cancer on Saturday, but we're still in new moon energy now, and the eclipses that we're having. There's another eclipse that's going to be happening on July 4th, although it's July 4th or 5th, depending on where you are. There's differing dates around that. And then we're also going to be talking around how we can utilize our own feminine energy during this time in order to ultimately help us to feel more connected and more grounded as we navigate this upcoming period. So if you do have your playlist, you're going to pull up now. It's in the chat box again for everyone. And we're going to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The first song is Flight from the City. And you can start there. I don't know how, do you guys hear playback a little bit? I can't tell who, it looks like everyone's muted, so I can't, oh, there we go, found it. Here we go, so now we'll begin. So we're gonna start that now, starting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then close your eyes. Once you start to close your eyes, I want you to be starting today with getting grounded, which means getting yourself out of your head and back into your body. When we're grounded, we feel present in this moment, but you also feel present in your body. Taking a big inhale through your nose, and then exhale through your mouth. Another big inhale through your nose, and then exhale through your mouth. Another big inhale through your nose, and then exhale through your mouth. And this time again, a big inhale through your nose. And as you exhale, just noticing the quality of breath as it goes out through your mouth. Are you blowing out with constraint or any resistance? Breathe in. Or can you let your breath as it goes out of your mouth get a little bit softer, a little bit more of a releasing quality? Another big inhale through your nose. And then exhale through your mouth. Inhale through your nose. And that same big exhale through your mouth, just softening your breath by softening your lips. Inhaling through your nose. And then exhale softer through your mouth. Continuing now to inhale and exhale through the rhythm of your own breath. Letting this start to feel like a wave. With each exhale, you release. With each new exhale, you release more. And maybe for you right now, that's stagnant energy. Maybe for you, it's resistance. Maybe for you, it's just tiredness. Or maybe it's just peace and calling more of that in. Letting yourself dwell right now in the sound of your own breath and in the concentration of you just simply focusing in on those inhales and exhales. If at any point it starts to feel more comfortable for you to close your mouth and let your breath just gently go in and out through your nose, you can begin to do that now. Letting yourself naturally attune to whatever is going to be most comfortable for you in this moment now, breathing in and out gently through the nose, or continuing on those big releasing breaths out. Saying to yourself now, sweet breath, sweet breath. And noticing if you call in more of a sweetness to your breath now, what do you need to do? Maybe it's that you get more comfortable in your seat. Maybe it's that you change how you're breathing, or maybe it's that you just allow yourself to sit here, not even focusing on the breath any longer. Letting now your brows start to soften. Seeing if you can relax the muscles of your face further. And now letting yourself dwell for a few moments longer in what it feels like to be in this place of serenity and ease. Through your breaths, you just calm down your nervous system. Started to tell your body that it was safe and that this is your intention for your time for you. I want you to set an intention now for how it is that you wish to feel an hour from now at the end of this circle together. What is it that your soul is most seeking right now? And now from this place, feeling what it feels like to be right now in a place of peace. Slowly opening your eyes, you can come back into the space now. So I wanted to start tonight by reading a passage. It's a passage or a lesson from A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles is a metaphysical text. It's actually a channeled text. It's a really fascinating story. I don't know, for those of you who are Marianne Williamson or Gabby Bernstein fans, they both often teach from A Course in Miracles as well. And what's really fascinating about the text is that it was channeled by this woman who was a therapist, and all of a sudden, basically one day, she started to channel this text alongside her partner. So basically she was channeling the text, these words were coming through, and then they were getting typed basically nonstop. So it's a completely channeled text, which is really powerful. I don't know if any of you have read any other texts before, but they are from different spirits or guides who are disseminating information to help us in our journeys as souls on earth. And this lesson from A Course in Miracles talks about a way of living that's more peaceful, where you are more certain of your trust in the universe, where you are more certain of the fact that things are unfolding in the way that they're supposed to, even when it feels scary, even when there's uncertainty, and even when there's big changes and upheaval. And it's a time where you remember that your spiritual connection is always there and that you are always able to return to that place of peace and groundedness no matter what is happening. And so the quote says, or the lesson rather, says, "There's a way of living in the world that is not here, although it seems to be. You do not change appearance, though you smile more frequently. Your forehead is serene and your eyes are quiet. And the ones who walk the world as you do recognize their own. Yet those who have not yet perceived the way will recognize you always and believe that you are like them as you were before. The world is an illusion. This is a simple choice we make today. The illusion will remain a while in our evidence to find that those who chose it were mistaken in their choice." The idea here is that when we remember our connection to our truth, to our connection to whatever we believe source is, or our connection to nature, or our connection to love, or the connection of the evolution, then we feel more serene and connected. When we can see the world as it is and see the beauty in some ways in the changes that are happening, as opposed to getting stuck in feeling fear or paralysis. So much of our practice of coming back to reconnect with ourselves is about reconnecting to love. Love first for ourselves, And then love for the world, love for every sentient being, love for everyone that we come into contact with, and love for our communities. Cancer, which is the sign that we're now in, really has to do with this idea of care. So when we think of love and care, often these words get interchanged for us. But as we enter into this Cancer season, into the Cancer new moon that we just had, we're really starting to think about the ways that we love and embody love for ourselves, the way that we care for ourselves, and the way then from that place that we're able to then extend that love and care to others. Meaning that even as there's so much changing and evolving in our world right now, that we can change and evolve those things from a place of love and compassion, even when we're fighting for things to change and evolve. The first thing that we're going to do for the Cancer new moon tonight is I'm going to have you guys grab your journals. And when you grab your journals, I want you to just write down whatever words first come to mind. When you think of the following words, I'll also type them into the chat box so you can see them. So the first word you're going to write down, or just write what you think of when you think of this word, is the word belonging. So just free write for a second, whatever comes up for you as you first think about that word. Your next word is tenderness. The next word is safety. Your next word is allow. And the last word that you have is mother. And then once you have all of your words on your paper, just take another minute or two, and you're just going to write any other words that come to mind as you look at all those words on your paper. If any others come to mind about belonging or tenderness, safety, allowing, or mothering. So take one more minute with that. Just again, letting any other words that you associate, words, activities, anything, just let it start to flow from your own intuition, just reflecting on what you automatically think of when you think of these words. You have 30 seconds left to continue to add anything else. Now what you're going to do is to take your list. Now that so that was sort of the first thing that we were doing is we're more logic-based. We're using more of the left brain. So our left side of the brain is logical processing and sort of where our word associations exist. So we're thinking of those words first from more of an analytical perspective, less intuitive necessarily, although they obviously can come creatively as well. Now we're just going to switch gears. So you have all those words now on your paper. And what you're going to do is first, again, still using your left brain, and then we'll switch over. Just this is a way that we can play with balancing our creative selves, which is the feminine part of the brain, this right side of the brain, the creative part, and also the logical, processing, rational part of our brain, which is the masculine. So I want you to just go through right now, just read your list top to bottom, just like starting at the top of your page, the words or whatever you wrote, and just read it all the way to the ground, or to the bottom of the page, not to the ground. So just read through all of those words now that you wrote and read them methodically, top of the page down to the bottom of the page, just reviewing them. And now that you've stopped that, you're going to take a second and you're going to start to shake your hands out really intensely. So just shake your energy, shake up your hands really, really quickly, throw them up over your head, bring them down. Breathe in really deeply, exhale. Breathe in really deeply, exhale. Now grab your pen again, and I want you to circle one word from each of those words, so each of your lists, of just whatever one you feel most drawn to. Which one do you feel most connected to for whatever reason? So you'll have one word that's your word for belonging, and then one from tenderness. Just, I want you to feel into it. So whether you just, which one, as you're reading through them, do you feel more connected to? Which one of those is for you, and circle those ones. Once you have your 5 words, I want you to write at the bottom of your page or on a new page, I am, and then those 5 words. You could either write them as 5 different I am statements or as I am, what those 5 words are. And then once you have your words, you can type them into the chat box below so we can see what everyone's come up with tonight. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Alexia has hers in. I love when we do the chat box. So my favorite part of this is when we start to see similar words come through too in our themes. All right, beautiful. So we have acceptance, grace, belonging, surrender, love, home, understood, empathetic, in my body, surrendered, unconditional love, love times 2, double love, home, blood, vulnerable, trust, freedom, strength, loving embrace, home, closeness, safety net, free, and love, community, kindred, intimate, living, flow, all rooted, quiet, home, gentle, warm, forgiving, flowing. Jennifer was like, "Oh, oops, thought we were talking about longing," but maybe that's what you needed to hear then. So there's something. I mean, in that sense of belonging and home and safety come those words though too. Home, gentle, needs, surrender, caregiver, community, compassion, home, freedom, spiritual, comfort, a big hug, warm, accepting, caring, free, unconditional love, caring, family, nurturing, peace, vulnerability, trust, resistance. Wow, yeah. See, like Alexia's like, oh, I had a lot of those on my list. Are you guys finding that too, that you also had a lot of the words on yours? Home, rest, mother, peace, myself. Peace times two, beautiful. Looks like everyone has theirs then. So it's so neat to see the word associations that we all have. Now that we have, oh yeah, and Alex loved that Sam also had hugs. Yeah, hugs are all part of that, especially I feel like people are dying for hugs right now. So that's top of mind as well. So these words in your I am statement now is going to be what I want you to think of as, I mean, in Goddess Circle, we are thinking about different archetypes or different versions of ourselves, knowing that we're always in stages of becoming. And as women, we have different cycles and different seasons. And sometimes the season of who we are can last for a month, and sometimes it lasts for 10 years, and sometimes it's 2 years. But what I want us to be thinking of is for this particular time right now, when we're in Cancer season, so this is started to us on the weekend and it'll continue through until mid to end July. Plus then we also have another eclipse that's coming on July 4th. I thought that it was really the 6th, but then I just read something about an hour ago that said it was the 4th. So I'll confirm that for you guys, but it's sometime around the 4th to the 6th when we'll have the next eclipse. But these words are the words that I want you to think of the archetype of who you want to be or what your soul is calling you to embody during the next month period, or during at least for this moon cycle. Remembering that every moon cycle, again, for those of you who haven't been here before, is that every time we have a new moon, we're setting new intentions for ourselves, which means we're setting the seeds of new ways of being, of things we want to step into, of things we want to cultivate, of impact that we want to make. And then that will correspond with the full moon that we have in about 2 weeks from now. So we'll sort of see the seed sprouting, so to speak, over the next couple of weeks. And then what I really love is actually to look at where the full moon then plays out about 6 months after this. So we'll have a Cancer full moon. What's interesting about our Cancer new moon is that we just had one on Saturday, but there's going to be another one in July. So there's 2 Cancer new moons of this similar energy that we're working with. But for this first one, so if we're thinking at new moons, we're often thinking about vision, about what we want in the future. But for this one specifically, I really wanted us to focus on just who is the woman, or what qualities of being are you really being called to cultivate right now? Because what we're seeing is happening in the world is a lot of destruction of patriarchy and a destruction of oppressive systems. And you'll hear a lot of talk about birthing a new world, which is ultimately a more equitable, a more loving, a more just world. And so while we will all eventually get insight into what our role is in helping and ushering that forward, and I believe anyone who's on a spiritual path or connected to their soul will be called upon to make an impact in whatever way they're supposed to. But the first seed of it is to think of who first is the person that I'm being called to be right now, or what qualities am I being asked to step into. You'll also hear talked a lot about right now the uprising of the divine feminine. And that means a lot of people that have a dominant of divine feminine, all men and female have a balance of divine masculine and divine feminine in them. But most women tend to have more of this divine feminine quality. And what a lot of us are being asked to do is to step into those qualities in an even bigger way right now, so that we can help heal the world in the way that we're supposed to, by utilizing a lot of the gifts of the divine feminine that have been repressed for so long. Those are things like collaboration. Those are things about love. Those are things like nurturing. They're things about healing. They're things about intuition and using our intuition intuition to help guide and heal and protect and evolve systems. And so as we think about now, first, it's just what are those qualities of the divine feminine are you being asked to step into, especially at the time that we're in Cancer season, which is a sign that's similarly really about, it has a lot of similarities to the divine feminine qualities. It's a lot about our nurturing, our sense of home, our sense of safety, and our sense of security. Similarly, around the time of a new moon in Cancer or Cancer season, sometimes for people, issues or clarity around their inner child, so how you feel at your deepest core, or what makes you happy at your deepest core, or what doesn't, what makes you feel scared or out of sorts at your deepest core, these things come up. And the way that we heal and the way that we connect with that really vulnerable part of ourselves is ultimately by being the type of mother or the type of parent that we really needed. So we look at both. We look at our divine masculine, but also our feminine. But I feel like in the healing of the divine feminine, we look at how can I basically mother myself in the way that I need to be mothered, in the way that perhaps I haven't been mothered, or just need to, for myself right now, be giving myself what I need. So now you have those statements. Oh, we got our last ones: purpose, vulnerability, stability, trust, and interdependence. Perfect. Those are all. So all the words that everyone had were very much words of embodying the divine feminine as well. So if you think about those now being your words, and that would be the embodiment, I want you to think of how is it, if you were to act in that way, what is it that you would love to be able to do if you were showing up more in that way? So you can think of what are maybe 3 tangible things. Like if I was showing up truly, like if I was really committed, at least for the next moon cycle or the next 30 days, of really focusing in on being more compassionate, or allowing myself more freedom, or really connecting in with my home life, or really being, a lot of you actually at home, and home's like Cancer season. So really thinking of like, if I were to really focus on what is home to me, what would that be? So I want you to think of maybe just 3 things, and these will be sort of your intentions to begin with for this new moon period. What are 3 things, if I'm going to be showing up as this version of myself, or if I'm going to be really focusing in on these qualities, what are 3 things that I really want to plant the seeds of? Maybe it's, volunteering somewhere, or making more service offerings, or it could be literally sprucing up your home, or reconnecting with the home that's within you. So I want you just to think of what are the 3 things that come to light for you when you think about what you'll do in order to embody these qualities. Another way to look at it is you could think of, what would it look like for me to lean into these qualities? Once you've got your clarity on your 3, take your time. We'll take another minute. So now that you've got those, we have 3 of your first intentions of ways that you'll lean into those qualities or work to embody more of those qualities. So we first always start with the beingness, or how will we first embody the things that we want to be, or the person that we want to step into being, or the qualities that we want to embody, and then to trust that from there, of really doing the internal work to clean up what's happening internally, then we'll be guided to what we should do externally, or we'll have an understanding of what exactly our next steps are. So now that you have your archetype, this is going to be who you're going to be showing up as during this Cancer season period. And you're going to be leaning into those qualities, and you now have your 3 intentions around what that is, or the 3 things that you're going to be doing proactively in order to embody these qualities further. So that's the first part of your intention setting for this new moon period. So that's focusing on what you're becoming. The time of an eclipse, though, is always kind of intense. And so we're going to now talk about what's been happening with the eclipse, because it may give you clarity into why you're being asked to step into these types of qualities right now, what changes might be on the horizon for you, or just to help you see maybe where there might be a pattern of what's happening. So when it comes to eclipses, they basically are just amplifiers of what's already there. I'm going to read this quote from Chani Nicholas, who's an amazing astrologer who I love from before, because she said it much more eloquently, and she's an amazing astrologer. But she says, eclipses act like exposés, unveiling what has been relegated to the shadows of our personal and collective lives. They set things in motion and mark moments where a long-standing issue breaks through to the conscious awareness of an individual, the collective, or both. They are pattern-setting times. This is the second eclipse in a series of 3. Eclipses activate events that are already occurring. So we're going to be focusing tonight on where these eclipses may be happening for you and what themes you may have seen happening individually. Of course, collectively, what we're seeing is a lot of unearthing of what's been under the shadow. We're seeing that a lot in terms of our government systems. We're seeing it a lot in terms of our incarceration systems and policing systems and all the anti-racism work that's so amazing that's being done right now. But I also want us to focus on individually how that's playing out for us. Maybe that is the big thing that's been illuminated for you right now. Like, wow, look at all these systems in front of me that I haven't been paying attention to, or that I could do better work around. Or it also might be that, and also you're seeing other themes right now emerge in your life as well. So eclipses have to do with it's basically like it's amplifying energy of what already is happening for you. And so for example, if you were thinking of moving, it might be that you had the thought of moving at the first eclipse, the second eclipse you find the house, and by the third eclipse you've actually moved there. It'd be something like that. Or I had a whole eclipse access that happened when I was transitioning out of law to do this work. And the first one, I remember I was kind of like just seeing some issues in my job, like some personalities that were frustrating to me. And I was like, I don't know, maybe I don't want to do this. It started to become clear that maybe I wasn't supposed to be doing that anymore. And then at the second one, I remember there was a lot of stress around what was happening. And at the third one was actually when I later was leading a retreat, and we had an eclipse, and it was like the most beautiful experience. And I just had this deep knowing of like, oh, this is actually what I'm supposed to be doing. And then on the fourth eclipse of that series was when I gave my notice to my work. So that's an example of how eclipses can potentially play out for you. Most recently, this first eclipse that we had in this series was from July 13th, 2018. You might not remember off the top of your head what you were doing at July 13th, 2018, but I want you to try and remember now. If you want to, you could go into your phone and see if anything comes up from that time period, but you might just generally want to think of where were you in July 2018 and what themes were emerging from you then, if you remember any at all. Was it that you were thinking of a move? Or is there a relationship thing where you just think of anything at all that you might recall from July of 2018, because that's when this whole shebang, that's when this whole pattern that you're now in started. This is a new beginning for you. So that's when you guys could later go back. This would be your homework maybe for later, is to go back. If any of you keep your journals, I would go back to your journal from that time if you can. Or if you remember that, I remember that one too. The 2018 eclipse, I actually can't fully recall everything that was happening, but it was a really intense one. Like, I just remember leading circles then and was having, like, everyone was just, it was a really, really potent time for people. I remember that very distinctly. It was like a lot of people were having kind of intense clearings or intense new beginnings, or, you know, whatever that was. And sometimes eclipses aren't negative, or, you know, they're just clarity around new things. It could be a new relationship or whatever else. But I want you to look at that time, what was starting for you. And then we fast forward to this next series of clips that we're most recently in that connect to that one. So the first one that we had was on July 6th. So that was a few weekends ago. And I want you to think of now, what was most present for you around that weekend? Again, just remembering back a few weekends, you should be able to recall it now. And to think of, were there any emotional responses to what was happening? So the first eclipse of this series was more so about our emotional responses to things. So at the time when that was first happening, most of the Black Lives Matters protests were happening that first weekend. To put it in context for people, there was a lot that was happening. Also, politically, there's a lot that's been happening, and there's also just been a lot happening probably in your own personal life too. So I want you to think of what was maybe happening around the time of that first week of June 6th, in that first weekend. And more so, I want you to think of, how did you ultimately respond to that or cope with that? So was there something specifically that you did, of how you responded? Like, how do you, if you look at, like, how do you normally self-soothe when you feel overwhelmed with different types of feelings? And just to see if anything became clear during that time. Easier question would just be, how do I self-soothe when confronted when confronted? So it could also be, if you didn't have big feelings around then, it could be just big changes. There's been a lot of changes happening for everyone recently. So looking at just how, were there any emotional responses or sort of patterns that you have? Like, maybe for you, you're like a person who loves delicious wine and you're like, that was it. Like, that's what happened. Or maybe it's that you like isolate and you don't talk to anyone about what's happening. I want you just to think of, how have you reacted or dealt with stress, ideally around that eclipse time, but you could look at like the week leading up to it or the week after, because we're just kind of like in the energy of it. So just reflect on that from June. Was there a way that you kind of just dealt with stress in the last month that might be habitual for you? So you have about another 45 seconds. The beauty of naming it and just reflecting, like half the time we just do our stuff and we don't even realize that we've done it. But the beauty of just naming it and reflecting is that then it just comes to light. You're like, oh, I totally do that. Some people, it's like everyone has all sorts of, stuff that we do when we just don't want to when we just don't want to deal. And so the beauty and the real self-love and self-compassion goes from like, oh, I totally do that. I just did that. And instead of being like, so like, like reprimanding your inner child or that version of yourself that acts out or does whatever. It's just extending that love and tenderness to yourself of like, oh, we totally do that. Then it would be like parenting yourselves, be like, how could we, how do we want to deal with this? I still love you. I still think you're so great. You just, your hands in the cookie jar, like whatever the thing was. I don't know if anyone if that was just me who would get like literally caught. I think were there stories around that? Was that a thing around hand the cookie jar? I feel like there's like songs around that, but yeah, I think there are. I think there are songs around that. So this is the first part. That part of the eclipse, what the theme generally was about seeing what our emotional responses are and how we deal with stress and how we deal with overwhelm and how we deal with changes. And I think in the last few months, all of us have been seeing how we deal with changes. But this full moon was highlighting for us. In some ways too, I know a lot of restrictions in different places have been opening up. And so perhaps you're just seeing, how do I now deal with change as things are changing again? We first had changes when everyone, and I know all of you guys are kind of all over the place in terms of where you live, but just as restrictions ease up, as you get back into integrating basically back into your communities, how do you adjust with that change? And so that might be what's been highlighted for you as well. So that was what the first eclipse was. And you can continue to reflect on this obviously after this call, but looking at how have I been adjusting to the new changes or to the emotional responses or whatever else. Then the second part of it now is looking at the second eclipse that we had. This one was supposed to be highlighting for us more about how we now deal with that. Like, what's our new way of dealing? What's our new response? What are the new actions that we actually want to be taking? And this then gets coupled with that new moon intention we were sharing with ourselves of who is the woman that I'm being asked to step into, or what are the qualities that I'm looking to embody more of right now. But when it comes to this eclipse, just thinking of, okay, based on my emotional response or how I was dealing with stuff in the past, what would be, what's going to be my new way of dealing with this? Or at least to set that intention of what is it that I need in order to be able to process and navigate and handle so that I can show up with love, whatever's happening in my life. So some of the things that have been themes for people around this time has just basically been about like, what do you need to do in order to care for yourself? Or do you need more breaks? Do you need more time for rest? Do you need more time to pause and be in silence before you allow yourself to speak and communicate about what it is that your needs are or what your thoughts are on something? So sometimes it's boundaries with people in your life. So that's what we're kind of thinking about now, is what happened in the last little bit, or even now as you're just doing the reflections on it. Instead, now knowing that you have a habitual tendency to how you might deal with stress or overwhelm or big feelings, now you're going to be thinking at this eclipse, again, from this real like nurturing and self-love perspective. What do I actually need when I'm feeling really overwhelmed? What do I need to do in order to care for myself and starting a new beginning of really providing it for yourself? This is a real self-mothering, self-nurturing kind of reflection to do. So just thinking, what are one or two things? Like maybe it's just that you need a lot of space. Maybe it's that you need a nap. Maybe it's that, think of for you, what is it that I need? I'll type it in the bottom. Oh yeah. Cookies are so sorry. So what you're thinking of now is just an intention of a new pattern. Similarly, I guess around this reflection, it could also be like practical things around what do you now need to do? Is it that you are committed to showing up in a certain way? Is it that you're committed to expressing yourself in a certain way? Is it that you're committed to new actions? Just think of whatever comes through for you. Now you're going to write it out all together in a sentence. So it'll say, what I do is, what I need is. So what I do is would have been whatever came up at the beginning of the month. Like what I do is that when I'm stressed out or when I'm dealing with difficult emotions, I avoid, or I watch Netflix, or I, whatever the things, or I don't express my needs and then I feel depleted. What I need is to commit to ongoing self-reflection in those times. What I need is to take my time to articulate my thoughts and then express them. What I need to is express better boundaries. What I need is more time to rest. Okay. Then when you have what it is that you need, you're gonna write it in our chat box. Because I think what will be interesting is that I think what a lot of us need is also what in the past we've been taught is unacceptable. Like, oh, I just need to take time for myself before I respond. I can't give you an answer right away. Oh, what I need actually right now is to rest in a culture that's always telling us to do. What I need actually is to say no to this when there's like constantly pressure to say yes to everything. So we're gonna rework all those beliefs because they're not real together. So the first thing is just type out when you have it, what it is that you need. What's the new cocoon of love that you're gonna be able to put yourself in. Okay. Maintaining self-connection practices. Yes. They always, for people, end up the same. Often, when things get really overwhelming, we're like, I'm not going to sit on that meditation cushion because I'm scared of what's going to happen. Time without your phone. Ooh, that's a big one, I think, for a lot of people. Time without your phone, staring at the ceiling, doing nothing, napping, and stretching. Time in silence to process before reacting emotionally towards another person, which has often led to irrationality and feeling hurt. lots of time alone in nature and strong boundaries, more rest, less doing, and less social media. See the themes? They're always the same themes. Limiting social media, grounding and pulling in your energy when chaos ensues to see more clearly, moving, singing, and doing something that elevates your heart energy. Beautiful. To rest and get still, express your need and desire to be alone. That's interesting. A lot of you said alone or in silence, which I think is really powerful. Feel comfortable with saying no. Journaling more to understand your thoughts and feelings, space to feel, process, and reflect. Beautiful. Limit sugar, social media, and more connection with self, nature, and God. And learning to be more empathetic with yourself. So then what would that, what is the empathy? Needing to nap, learning to be more empathetic. Beautiful. Needing to nap, run, yoga, or get a massage, no sugar or social media, and being kinder to yourself. So as you can see, the beauty is so many similarities. Oh, calibrating your energy output according to your deepest truths and values. What I think is so powerful as we read through all of them, and you can read through them in the chat box below as well, is that you really do see all the similarities between what you've all written. And again, like I said, they are counterintuitive to what we're taught about how we should process, how we should be, and how we should be showing up. And so if we're here to birth a new world and a world that reflects our values, which are hopefully unity and love and peace and understanding and connection and empowerment and whatever those types of values. But if we just think of some like beautiful core values of love and acceptance and peace and abundance and connection for all, and then if we think of from that place, just starting in the microcosm of yourself and how you're navigating the world, thinking of what is it that you need, because usually we're all taught that we shouldn't take those things, that it's selfish, that it's luxurious, that we should know right away what the answer is, or that we should be able to process feelings in like rapid fire too. I think that that's another fallacy, like that you feel a feeling and that it should be over within a few minutes or like an hour, when sometimes you really need to sit with a feeling and then a new layer of a feeling comes and then you've got a new one and you're just like kind of riding the waves of different feelings. Like the beauty of people that have a lot of divine feminine energy in them is that you can feel so deeply, but the balance of that is, because you can feel so deeply, is to allow the space for you to be able to process that feeling and to be with that feeling. I thought it was really powerful too that so many of you said to be in silence, to say no to being around other people, because that's also sort of the shadow side of the divine feminine, is always giving and always being there for others. And that's kind of like where shadow comes in a lot with givers basically, and a lot of people that want to be helpful and want to be of service, is that ultimately you do so to your own detriment. And so it's thinking about, I thought it was just so special that a lot of people really claim that, of like, actually, in order for me to be able to process and emotionally repattern things, I need to take time by myself and I need to take that space away from others, so that then I can actually give from a place of groundedness and from a place of real being, connected to your own truth and your own inner reservoir of love. So that's what you now need. I thought that was really powerful to watch and see everyone's there, and what everyone really needs as they move forward. Because the idea is then we have our next eclipse that's going to be coming up on July, again, 4th to 6th. That's a weekend. So sometime that weekend, things might get intense again, or there might be big changes in your life or collectively. And just in general, as we think forward to between now, the last eclipse that's in this series is November 30th. So the one that might be coming up will probably be showing us sort of concrete actions that we need to be taking. But this one was about, okay, well, what's the integration of this? Like, what are the things that I now need to do? So now you have that piece of the integration. Like, okay, I see the pattern. To integrate this is what I now know that I really need, and that I'm going to be really committed to providing this with myself anytime that I'm feeling big feelings, when I'm processing a lot, when I'm dealing with changes, so that I can first and best take care of myself. Remembering that Cancer season is all about this, really learning to nurture and be tender with ourselves so that we can extend that to others, to our communities, and the whole world. The love that extends to others. The third part of this then is that you'll probably see around the July 6th eclipse. We're going to have a circle actually on July 6th. So if you come to that one, then we'll talk about it more. But just to know that around that time, we're going to be seeing more of how you can put this now into action, like why it would be this, and just something to be mindful of as you move forward. You might be shown like, why is it that I'm being asked to do this now? Because it might be that those changes or the specific actions that you need to be taking become clear to you in the next month or so. So maybe it's that you've been navigating the feelings around a move, or being away from your friends or family or something like that, and then you saw that like, oh, instead of me dealing with feeling sad about that, this is my pattern. Instead, what I need now is to calm down and give myself time and space to reflect. And you saw that at this eclipse, and it might be because around the time of the July 4th or 5th one, that move becomes clear, like, oh, it's happening. This is like so you might get clarity around why you've been asked to renegotiate in this way, or what the change actually is. And then you'll see yourself having landed into the ending of this chapter and starting a new one at the end of November. So just to know that that's kind of what this is all leading up to. But it's really just important to right now at this stage in the game to be focusing on what is it that I need to provide for myself so that I feel loved and cared for, and so that I feel safe to process everything that's happening in my life, so that I can ultimately show up as a better leader and embodiment of love, which is what most of us at our core really need to be showing up as much as possible, is leading with love, leading with compassion, and from there being guided to what the actions that we need to take are in order to help heal our communities as well. Any questions about anything around what's happening in terms of those planets? If not, what I'm going to do now is pull cards for the group, and we'll do a little reflection on that. Then we'll do our meditation, and then we will be closing it out for tonight. Okay, so if you have your own oracle card, what you're going to be doing then is taking your cards now, and you're going to be shuffling them, and you're going to be asking for insight or clarity on what it is that you need right now in order for you to just what you're going to need in this next month circle, or this next moon cycle. So what's going to be important for you? And I'll pull one for the group. Oh, I got ours. Okay, so the group card is boundaries, which is so perfect based on what we literally just talked about. So it says, love yourself enough to say no to others' demands on your time and energy. So thinking of, for you, just how this could be in place, of what boundaries might you need in place. Maybe you already know what they are for you, or maybe you just want to think down, you can just write it down of what they might be. But if this is what is important for you now, what do you know that you need to say yes to right now, or what do you know that you need to say no to? So I'll type that in for you as well. But it's and just let yourself free, write whatever comes to. What I'm saying yes to is, and then write all the things what I'm saying no to is, because the card is boundaries. And then once you have what I'm saying yes to is, what I'm saying no to is, you could just use one word or you could type all of them, but we'll see what everyone's themes are as we declare them out. So what I'm saying yes to is, what I'm saying no to is. Maybe you could just come up with your most powerful one. What I'm saying yes to is, what I'm saying no to is. Oh my God, see, perfect. Alex also pulled a card for herself that applies to the group because we're all, you can tell everyone's, sounds like everyone's energy is, as per usual, always in a very similar frequency, but she pulled the card that said, I'm kind and loving towards others while creating clear boundaries that protect my good feelings and emotions. That's literally encapsulates what we've been talking about tonight, which is true. I didn't even know that that's, oh, perfect. Kane pulled nurture yourself and you can do it. Yeah, exactly. I love that everyone's pulls are so similar. And then oh, Chantel. Yeah, I don't know why it says that you're Kane on that. That's interesting. Hi, Chanel. That's weird. That is weird. Anyway, Alexia said, your card is from the Wisdom of the Oracle deck, and it says the tribe, community, belonging, being seen and understood, knowing your place in the world. That is an interesting one because we were talking about home and what's belonging. And the message of the card says, don't try and be all things to all people. Choose your role and be true to it and serve from a place of authenticity, aka boundaries. Know where to put your energy and don't stress yourself and don't try and bend to people who might make you not feel good or loved or supported as you really work to nurture and love yourself in that place. Beautiful. Oh, I love the cards. Sam pulled unconditional love, love yourself and others in every situation, no matter the outward appearances. That's the big self-love card. Mary Magdalene, really just nurturing. That's like the Divine Mother card of really nurturing ourselves. I know I can picture Alexia just like freaking, like, this is crazy. I wish I could see all your, the funny thing is I can like tell all your energies, but like most of you don't have your video up, but I'm just like, oh, I know, hopefully. Like hopefully you're all just sharing in the joy there. Lindsay says, pulled true love, time, yes to time alone, and no to people, putting people's needs before mine. True love to myself, and sometimes love is a hard line in the sand. Boundaries, yes, it is. And then Leanne is being called for creativity. You are encouraged to be bold and give permission to choose what feels more authentic to you. True dad, another like clear delineation of boundaries of this is what is actually true for me, or this is what I want to do. All right, so now type in your yes and no's. So we'll read, and then we'll get, oh yeah, I love all the cards. Roz has fertility card, time to start new projects, access new ideas, and give birth to new conditions. So highlight on that give birth to new conditions. So that's again with like, what is my new thing that I'm gonna do? Like, what's the new normal? Like, how am I gonna navigate? How do I wanna navigate? How do I wanna self-soothe? But what's my new pattern gonna be? And to put into birthing from that the new conditions. And then similar, like we were talking about for the July 4th, 5th one, then we'll probably be seeing like what new projects, what new ideas are coming through around that time. If anyone else wants to share their cards, go ahead now. If not, then write in your yes, what you're saying yes to, and what you're saying no to. Oh, that's interesting. Alyssa had Trust the Niggle card from the Work Your Light Oracle deck. Then you're saying yes to your intuition. Exactly. Okay, so we'll have them hopefully in once you have them. This is one of my favorite, as you guys write them on, say, it's one of my favorite exercises to do because it's so simple when it comes to a boundary exercise of just saying, what am I saying yes to and what am I saying no to? And to declare that for yourself of just, this is what it is. I'm saying yes to this. And it's you setting that intention and being bold with yourself of this is what's a yes for me. This is what's important for me. And this is what I know is a no. And this is what I know that I have to do. One of my favorite parts about gatherings like this and circles like this is that we regain a connection to our own power of our own truth of what we know we need to do. And I feel like it's so beautiful always to be surrounded by like-minded souls who are similarly like, yeah, we all totally just need to take some time to rest, or it's to tell people that they've got to take a minute so that we can take a minute for ourselves so that we can then show up better. And so the idea is that we're, again, taught not to do these things, but part of how we all have grown and evolved and continue to together by nature of coming to these gatherings is by seeing and feeling empowered around other people who are doing the same things, and that collective intention really helping everyone to create better and more loving and more supportive circumstances in their lives. All right. So what you can also do too is once you have your yeses and nos, I'm going to let you guys, I think there's a couple more to type theirs in, but as you have them, what you can do as well is just to go back to them once a week, or you can go back to them daily, depending on what you want to be doing. I find that it's helpful at least once a week, at least in this moon cycle. Again, the next new moon in Cancer is still going to be in July. So maybe if you just think, okay, between this new moon and the next new moon, I'm just going back to this once a week to seeing how it's playing out. Am I staying true to myself of giving myself what it is that I need? That's how we slowly just check in with ourselves to make sure that we're on track. So you can see how that played out each week. All right, so Alyssa has yes to her intuition and no to what everyone else expects of her. Yes to unleashing the playful, fun, flirty side led by the heart and lightness, and to raising the goddess energy. Yes. Yes to gentleness, no to overthinking. Yes to anything that sparks joy, no to expectations or fear. Yes to what feels good and aligned without permission from other people or trying to explain myself. More alone time without feeling guilty and saying no, and solid breaks from Instagram and replacing that with writing time. Chandel, not Kane. That's so interesting that it did that for you. Because I was like, interesting, what a cool name, Kane. Says yes to allowing, receiving, and flow. No to pushing, resisting, and stressing. No to guilt, overthinking, overexerting yourself for others. Yes to more rest and time with friends and family. No to all the distractions from social media, email, and internet. Yes to my close circle of connections. No to my extended circle. That's such a big one, I think, now that we're all sort of in varying degrees starting to reconnect with different people in our lives in varying degrees after things open up. I feel like that's such a potent one, is around our connections and how we choose to navigate them. Say no to putting so much pressure on yourself. Yes to letting go and going with the flow. Yes to gratitude, me time, self-compassion. No to pity party spirals, letting her own emotions take control of my happiness. No to energy sucking people, too much social media, and a lack of disciplines toward the showing up of myself in activities. Yes to taking time to rest and get re-inspired and creative. No to anything that genuinely does not feel right. Yes, same with intuition. A few of you had that one too. Yes to trusting myself, no to constantly comparing myself to others, big one. Yes to taking action, no to thinking my life is not within my control. Powerful. All really great ones. Maybe from seeing everyone's too, you maybe got even other inspirations around things that you might be doing. What I find is really powerful is a lot of themes around connections. So one thing I think that will be even more, this is what I think might be intuitively, this is what I think is going to play out a lot in July, is a lot more of you really seeing clearly just because as we're all emerging out, really, I think by July, a lot more restrictions, no matter where you live, will have lifted in different degrees. And because we've all been so isolated and in our own energies in way more of a degree than we ever really had before, just even think about it, you're leaving to go to work each day, you're interacting with people, like there was just so much externally that was influencing us that perhaps you didn't even realize. And now it's all of a sudden when you get back into those places that once felt familiar, some of them won't feel the same to you anymore. Certain connections won't feel the same to you anymore. Places might not resonate with you. Certain conversations might. And so I think that it's interesting that a lot of you had a lot around boundaries with others in your connections, but it's something to be mindful of as you move forward and you're emerging as, and we're all birthing this new world around who is feeling supportive and loving and uplifting to that and who isn't, and how with love you can protect yourself just by saying no. There's also a big theme for a lot of you too around social media. So if whatever you want to get your own rules around how you want to navigate that, but I think having some parameters, that was a really interesting one for people right now. And maybe just to think of what you would like to do instead of social media, because I think a lot of the time it's habitual, right? And if the beginning of the month was about seeing the pattern, and then this part of the eclipse is about repatterning, so seeing like, what will I do instead? Maybe it's like, oh, I'm just going to definitely just not be on it from 9 p.m. onward, or I'm only going to do it at this time, or when I might habitually go onto it, instead I'm going to play a song on my phone. I'm going to really deeply listen to it, or I'm going to write in a journal or whatever. So think of how you want to renegotiate that. And a lot of just saying yes to living with flow, giving yourself space, and really basically if you tie it back to the beginning, a lot of what you're saying yes to is embodying in different ways those same qualities that you talked about in your I am statement. So like when you feel rested and when you feel like you're allowing and you're in flow, you're probably embodying those same qualities that you had from the beginning I am statement. Like I am love, I am compassion, I am home, I'm hugging, I am warm. Because in order for you to be that way, you have to give yourself what it is that you need. So just notice how what you're saying yes to probably aligns with the qualities of being that you're going to be embodying this month, because they'll help you to feel and to step into those energies. When it comes to your no, again, just notice that like every time that we tell the universe we're saying no to something, it's where it like comes instead, and often gives us tests of like, oh, you said that you weren't going to compare yourself to other people, or you weren't going to go on social media anymore. And then like something happens where you just want to be on it all the time, or you notice yourself down the rabbit hole of whatever else. The idea then is to extend, just when we notice ourselves maybe either getting tripped up again or getting hooked in something, just to, again, in this Cancer season, extend gentleness and compassion for ourselves when we kind of do the thing that we hoped that we weren't going to do. You know, change doesn't, the pattern of rewiring ourselves and everything else takes time. It doesn't happen all at once, as much as there can be miraculous changes for sure. And you can just decide, like, line in the sand, this is it. I'm not gonna do this anymore, and this is gonna be my new way of being. But to me, that's actually like less fun too, because our souls are already perfect. We're here also to be human and to learn through like trying different things and having the universe test us and learning to get back into alignment. And so the idea actually becomes, how can I cultivate more gentleness for myself, even when I'm in the process of learning a new way of being? So just to remind yourself, as you now know what your no is and what your yes is, if you end up falling into a pattern where you're still saying yes to someone when you totally knew you should have taken that break for yourself, just to, you know, be kind to yourself and gentle with yourself while you do it. That's part of the work in and of itself. All right, so those are beautiful yeses and nos that you all have. So to wrap it up, before we do our final meditation for tonight, the new moon intention that you can continue to flesh out for yourself is around this version of yourself, this archetype of really this super nurturing and loving and this mothering archetype that you can connect in within yourself. And so it's the divine mother within you. It's like the Mary Magdalene kind of archetype, like the most mothering version of yourself, mothering yourself basically is what it is. And so that's the deepest divine feminine within us. So if you look at those qualities, just start to write out more, like, what is it, you know, who would I be if I'm really embodying these qualities, and how would I show up in my life, and what actions am I committed to taking, and how could I show up more in that way? So that was the first thing around your first Cancer new moon intentions, remembering that we have another Cancer new moon at the end of July, which other things I think will come out of that reflection. The second thing is to look back in that eclipse series, remembering that the July 13th one will be where this whole pattern or where this whole thing came out of. So maybe it's that you decided that there were changes that were happening in your life at that time, and now fast forward, this is really, you're kind of in like the emotional depths of how do you need to evolve and change your emotional response, or how you show up, or the person that you are, in order so that you can actually begin this new chapter. So you're looking, again, we had the July beginning one, then we had, oh wait, so we had the 2 this month, so we went through those. So you then have from there just further reflection around what patterns were emerging for you. And then the last thing now is just as you move forward this month, how is it that you can create better boundaries for yourself with your time? How can you let yourself feel really good and really nurtured and really cared for? How can you make sure that you feel safe? Because there's going to be more and more things, I think, continuing to be unearthed over the next month or year or coming years. And the beauty is that that's leading to change and evolution in our world, in our communities, in our individual selves as well. But the idea becomes, we can't expect ourselves to process it in any certain way. We all have our unique processing mechanisms. And so what do you need in order to feel loved and connected and safe to handle anything and everything that's happening, so that you can be a beacon of love and compassion in this world? So that's what you're looking at, your new yes and your new no. So that's how we're going to navigate this season. Eclipses, again, are they're just like intense energy. And so just to know that some of the ways that we navigate intensity is just giving ourselves ample time to rest. Also, just know that energetically there's a lot that's happening at eclipses, and that's also why we need time to rest. It's just like there's just a lot of energy that's being basically beamed down into all of us, and it's shifting up stuff in our own consciousness and in our own physical bodies. And so just knowing from a practical perspective, like there's a lot that collectively we're all processing. And so knowing that if you need to rest more, if you need to sleep more, that part of it is you just being able to navigate the energy that's around. Yeah. So Alexi wants to nap 3 times a day. There's a lot. I mean, there's also like there would be like a non-spiritual scientific approach to that too, which is just that when collectively there's so much happening that sometimes our psyches just actually don't know how to process all of it, so have to sleep in order to process. But from the perspective of spirit, it would just be that energetically, because so much is being unearthed, so that more light and love and unity and beautiful high consciousness can continue to permeate the world. It just means that there's a lot of energy that's being unearthed, and that's intense. And so everyone is feeling physically and mentally exhausted. It's also been a new moon too situation. So just know that, like, trust your body and that you need to rest, and just trust that resting is a radical act, because we're taught that resting is like bad for whatever reason, which is stupid. That's like, again, it was just a construct in our society. Like, you have to be doing all the time. And actually the beauty of divine feminine is it's really that like rest is just as powerful as doing. So the divine feminine quality is actually resting. It's actually non-doing. It's actually the becoming, as opposed to being, in the doing. And so to remember as well, just as someone who's, self-identified as a woman, just to know that every time when you are resting, that's actually you nurturing this quality that's equally as powerful as the doing. So more rest for everyone, and also just let yourself energetically catch up to what's happening and what's being processed, and let yourself nap and rest and lay as much as you need to, so that you can show up and continue to evolve and change in the way that you are meant to. We'll do a 2-minute meditation, and then I'll let everyone float into their night. So close your eyes where you are. And we're going to do a loving kindness meditation tonight. So first, I want you to imagine a really sweet younger version of yourself. Maybe it's you as a kid sometime. And as you imagine this littlest version of you, saying to yourself, may I be happy, may I be healthy, may I be free. And now I want you to think of someone in your life who you really love, someone who's always there for you. Now saying to them, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be free. I want you to now think of a community in your life, any community that comes to mind. And saying to that community, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be free. I want you to think now of the people in the city that you live. And thinking of them as a collective and saying, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be free. Now imagining your whole country and saying to them, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be free. Imagining all living beings in the world, saying to them, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be free. And lastly, thinking of someone who you've never met before, but someone who's feeling really down, really destitute, like nobody cares about them in this moment. And offering them your love and compassion and connection, remembering we're all connected as one. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be free. Never forgetting just how connected we all are to one another, how collectively we can become a more loving and more compassionate community. Not forgetting how much you being an embodiment of love and compassion and change can affect everyone around you. Taking your last moment just to dwell in gratitude for yourself for having taken some time tonight to connect, to reflect, to instead of getting overwhelmed or not knowing how to navigate what's happening in such a potent time, not only in history, but just collectively and also in this month astrologically, to make sense of it, to integrate it, to do some work around it. Feeling what taking care of yourself, taking time for yourself feels like. And lastly, going back to your intention from the beginning of the call of how it is that you wish to feel at the end of tonight and coming back to whatever that word is. Now sinking into that feeling. Gently opening your eyes, come back into the space. Or you can continue to sit. I'll sign off on the call. Send you guys so much love. Thank you all so much for being here and sharing your reflections and magic. And I always know that from here, so much can change. So I'll see you guys also hopefully on July 6th. So that'll be like part 2 of this eclipse. So enjoy. Thanks, you guys, for all your messages. See you all so soon. Sending you lots of love. Bye. Miss you guys too. IRL.